So, images, people, identities, and social media. What does Kitty think about this? Kitty doesn't care because she's a cat. The problem with us is that we are all individuals. We are all people. And there's something, I feel like when this period is spoken about in the history books, they're going to write about it as like it's an age of influencer culture, of the rising prominence of the individual, and how one individual can have so much impact over the world. We see this from politics. Politicians are becoming more, appealing to individual values, their bases. They're putting out personality, and we're even seeing this weird blend where people who were initially prominent on social media are now influencing politics in very strange ways. The border between politics and influencer and billionaire and entrepreneur, it's all being blended because it's all just becoming a personality. And this is what we are selling in this modern world. So in the erosion of the typical social capital that we usually had, going back to the 1950s, that's written about in Putnam's Bowling Alone, that we had the social capital that allows us to engage with other people and is a measure of how integrated we are with society and other individuals. Now that this is eroded, we have a new type of social capital. And this capital is more about influencer capital. So what is our image that we project out to the world? How is that integrated with the overall image ecosystem and other people's images, right? One of the things we can understand here is that when people talk about social media, YouTube, TikTok, the meta is always changing. So everything that's viral and everything that's getting clicks is constantly changing. And this means that your image needs to constantly be changing as well to fit this new environment. And so that's what I refer to in terms of the this influencer social capital, is that this is the measure of how well you are able to integrate with other individuals in this environment. And what a lot of people do, some people do, is that you'll see they will carve out their own niche in this online world and basically create their own community where they can create this influencer social capital from the ground up. Otherwise, you have to find a way to integrate yourself in the pre-existing ecosystem. Now, the problem I see with this is that, like I said, with politicians and influencers, that line being blended and blurred, I feel like the same thing is happening in our personal lives, where it's sort of everyone feels like they're doing some sort of a performance. The short essay of Simulations and Simulacrum, I feel like really is very interesting because it kind of tells a story of what was happening then with media and culture in American, the American country culture and everything, and how that has changed with social media as well. It's just become accelerated in terms of this simulacrum. What that is essentially, it's a reality that is trying to point to something real, while it's saying itself is a simulation, whereas the real thing has eroded. So this simulation exists only to pretend that the thing that was real still exists, but it doesn't exist. And so now you just have this self-referential loop trying to refer to something that doesn't exist anymore. And so the purpose of this simulation kind of loses its point. And so I feel like this is also happening today, where social media was initially used as a way to represent yourself. Everyone knew that social media was a simulation, it was an illusion, it was not the true self. And it just referred to aspects of the true self, and then you could reference from that and look at the true self. Now that is eroded, you have influencer being a career path and even being a way to become a politician and get influence and change the world in a variety of different ways. What you see is that the individual starts to collapse, and there is no individual. There is just this fourth level simulation, or the simulacrum, where there's this fake reality and there's no truth that's pointing to. There's no truth that's pointing to at all. And now there's a YouTuber that I think is a really good example of this, and this is Jay Rig. He's talked a lot about this in making videos and making satirical videos, that he loses his sort of sense of self behind all the levels of irony. And I don't think irony is the only thing at play here. I think it's also just this giant social media ecosystem, and also just this culture that we've been creating for a long time. But essentially what happens when you start creating more of this content is everything becomes a performance. You lose the real self, or you have to start carving away areas for the real self from the simulated self. So the simulated self is not an area that you carve out from your personal life. It becomes the opposite, in which you have to fight day and night to keep your real self alive, because it's always constantly under attack by the simulated self. Now, what to think about all this? The reason I bring this up is because a lot of people have told me that I should really get involved in social media, specifically things like short form content like Instagram, TikTok, talking about my journeys, my travels, and everything. And this is why I have such a big dilemma with it, because I don't want to feel like I have to carve away my own experiences from this fake reality that I would be creating and putting out to the world. Another alternative is that with social media, you can try to show the real reality of travel, how these things really are without going through a simulation. But that still is a problem because then you are referencing other simulated realities. Take an example, you talk about these van lifer people, the van life TikTok, right? They make van life seem like this big glamorous thing. And so if you want to come around and say, hey, this is what van life is actually like, and do your videos and your content like that, you might think, okay, hey, well, I'm describing the real reality of here. Real reality of living in your van, living in your car, traveling. It's not all glamour, right? Well, the problem is you're still referencing this fake reality that is an illusion that's referencing nothing else. So you still do not have this basis reality to stand on, which why I feel like you really need to go about being a social media influencer in a very delicate way in order to not lose yourself and isolate who you really are. And so this is one of the reasons why I've been just slowly dabbling with making videos and everything, is because I've been unsure of how to really articulate that and how to really pinpoint that in my own life. So to end this off, I'm not saying that where our culture is going in a completely negative direction. Of course, I think there are going to be good things that are sprouting out of this, and we're going to evolve and respond to this sense of, needing to commodify the individual, commodify our own identities and everything. But I think right now, if you want to live a full life, we cannot go back to our old values because we are in a new world now. Identity has changed, media has changed. We need to adapt with it. But the question is, how are we going to adapt our voices and our identity in a world where everything is constantly under observation, everything needs to be commodified, and everything needs to influence someone else? And if you're not influencing someone else, then people will ask you, what are you doing? You're wasting your time. You have so much more potential than this. So are there ways that we can influence the world more than just trying to influence the ideas of someone else? Right now, that's what our culture says is the greatest thing you can do is influence the ideas of so many other people. And what I find is, I think there's something more that we can do with our lives than just influencing people's ideas. I don't think ideas will get you very far. I think they can be the opening of the door, but right now we have too many ideas and we need to find some other way to help people. So that's what I'm going to say. If you want to become a social media influencer, really try to find out how you want to navigate that world and how you want to set it up so you can keep your own identity separate from the social media identity and not let it consume you and still have a basis of reality there. So that's something I'm going to be working on. So if you want to keep watching videos like this or continue to hear about topics like this, subscribe and like, and I have a lot of ideas on this topic, and right now I'm just spewing them out and I'm kind of like articulating them. And so as I put more of these ideas out here, I'm going to see what sticks and what doesn't, and I'm going to do more long form content and try to put it in a more digestible format, because I know this is kind of spewing my words out, and I'll put it in a form that is more accessible. Well, thank you for watching. And the kitty says thank you too. Say bye-bye. Bye-bye.